I will be telling you the rest of the story since Caleb can't continue at this point if you haven't watched part 1. Go back, the story begins there with a pipe, with a cold woman and a dying man, and a girl named Sasha that he almost loved instead. You need to know all of that before you hear this. Because this part is the one that cost something. Full remission. Those words, Dr. Chen said them and the world rearranged itself. Caleb shook. Victoria stared at the ceiling. Then she looked at him. With arguments and silences and recalibrations and all the messy human business of two difficult people, learning to share space permanently. Victoria reversed the evictions, changed the rental structures. Gerald's sister found an apartment. Caleb went back to work. Took the nonprofit job, spent his days in buildings that needed fixing for people who needed them fixed. They married quietly. City Hall, Gerald and Elizabeth as witnesses. Lunch afterward at a restaurant. With mismatched chairs. Victoria wore a cream dress she'd bought off a rack, which Elizabeth later told everyone was the most surprising thing she'd ever witnessed in 11 years of working for the woman. Caleb wore the same suit from the gala. It still fit. They went home that evening and sat on the floor of the living room eating takeout straight from the containers, backs against the couch, comfortable silence all around them. Married, Caleb said. Apparently, Victoria said. How do you feel? She thought about it seriously, terrified. Content, those two things at the same time. That sounds right. She leaned her head on his shoulder. Don't die, she said. That's not up to me, I know. She was quiet. I'm saying it anyway. Don't die. Okay, promise me. He kissed the top of her head. I'll do everything I can, he said. Not a promise. Both of them knew why. 3 years. They are the most ordinary and the most extraordinary words. 3 years of mornings where he made coffee and she pretended not to notice how careful he was about making it exactly right. 3 years of her coming home late and finding him asleep on the couch with a book on his chest. 3 years of arguments about the thermostat and road trips to places neither of them had been, and Sunday phone calls to his old colleagues and Saturday dinners that started at 7 and ran until midnight. 3 years of the Ashford Housing Foundation. Victoria's project. Her real project, the one built from guilt and grief and the slow work of becoming someone worth being. She sat on boards now, non-profit ones. The kind she used to mock, she didn't mock them anymore. She built things with them. Caleb stood in the back of a ribbon cutting for a new affordable housing development on a Wednesday in October. 42 units, built on land that used to be a parking structure she'd owned and emptied and sold. Now it was homes. He watched her at the microphone. This woman who used to make men afraid to speak in her presence. Now standing in front of families who were getting keys to apartments they could actually afford. She was still sharp, still proud, still more comfortable with difficult truths and comfortable lies. But something had come loose in her. Something that let the warmth out. She caught his eye from the stage. Just once. You did this. She looked away before the feeling became visible on her face. But he saw it. He always saw it. It started in November. 3 years and 2 months after full remission, the headache. Behind the left eye. Caleb stood in the kitchen one morning, hand pressed against his temple, and felt something drop through him like cold water. He knew this headache. He'd had this headache before. He stood very still, coffee in one hand, the other pressed to his head, the kitchen bright and warm around him. Victoria walked in, phone in hand, reading something. She looked up, saw his face. Her phone lowered slowly. Caleb, I'm fine. Caleb. Her voice was very steady, very careful. She crossed the kitchen, stood in front of him, put her hand on the side of his face, tilted it toward her. His eyes. She looked into his eyes the way you look at someone when you're trying to find what you're afraid to find. When? She said. This morning, first one this week, or first one recently. Silence. First one this week, he said. She dropped her forehead against his. Just rested there, both of them breathing. How long? She said. 3 weeks, maybe 4. She pulled back, looked at him. Her eyes were winter sky again, but not cold. Just vast, like something enormous moving underneath the surface. You waited 4 weeks to tell me. I didn't want it to be real. Caleb, I know. He set the coffee down, took her face in both his hands. I know, I'm sorry. She closed her eyes, and he watched the thing she was holding. This enormous, terrifying thing. Move across her face and then get locked back down somewhere deep. We call Mary Chen today, she said. Yes. Today, not tomorrow, today. Victoria. Whatever this is, we face it, like we face everything. Terrified and together, exactly. She put her hands over his. I'm pregnant, she said. The kitchen went completely quiet. We found out Tuesday, she continued, voice careful as someone walking on ice. I was waiting for the right moment to tell you. There wasn't a right moment, and then there was this moment, and how far along? 8 weeks. Dr. Peterson thinks it might be twins. She paused. The genetic markers suggest. Twins, he said. She watched his face. He looked at her flat stomach that held somehow. Their children plural. Impossible. He started laughing. It surprised him. But once it started, it couldn't stop. Real laughter. The kind that comes from somewhere wild and helpless. Of course it's twins, he said. Caleb. Of course. Because we don't do anything simply. Nothing in our entire story has been simple. Why would this? Stop laughing. I can't. Caleb. But she was almost smiling, trying not to. He pulled her in. Arms around her, holding on. The laughter faded slowly. And then just the two of them in the kitchen, holding each other, pregnant with twins and a headache behind his left eye. Dr. Chen's face told them everything before she said a word. Caleb had learned to read that face over years of appointments. He knew the good news version. He knew the careful news version. He knew this version. Victoria sat beside him, her hand in his, her other hand resting on her small round stomach. 14 weeks now. Visibly, beautifully pregnant. It's back, Dr. Chen said. The word back is such a small word for such a devastating thing. Samey location, Caleb asked. Samey location. But it's grown quickly. The concern is... She paused. The concern is that this variant appears more aggressive than the original. Treatment, surgery first, then radiation and chemotherapy. Depending on what we find during the operation. She looked at both of them. The surgery is complex, it's high risk. Define high risk, Victoria said. Dr. Chen looked at her steadily. There is a significant chance that Caleb does not survive the surgery. Nobody spoke. The room had that strange stillness of moments that split time in half. Before, after, significant meaning. Victoria's voice was absolutely even. Absolutely controlled. 40% survival rate, given the location and the growth. Caleb looked at the scan on the screen. That white mass, old enemy. New aggression. And without surgery, he asked. Without surgery, we're looking at 4 to 6 months, with palliative care. Victoria's hand tightened on his. He felt every finger. Can we have a moment? He asked. Dr. Chen nodded. Take as long as you need. She left. The room was very quiet. Caleb looked at Victoria, at her face, at the way she was holding herself together with the same strength she'd used her entire life. Don't, she said. Don't what? Don't you dare make this into a sacrifice story. Don't you dare sit there and think about not doing the surgery to protect me from watching you, Victoria. Don't. Her voice cracked down the middle, first crack he'd heard in 3 years. I know how your mind works, I know you, and if you're about to tell me that you'd rather have 4 months with me than risk the surgery, I will. She stopped, pressed her lips together. He watched the crack in her. What will you do? He said softly. I don't know, she said. But it will be loud. He almost smiled. I'm doing the surgery, he said. Yes, you are. Because 60% is a number I can work with. She looked at him, her eyes bright, wild. Everything she kept internal suddenly right there on the surface. Caleb, I need you to understand something. Those babies, her voice broke again. She pushed through it. Those babies are going to need to know who their father was. Actually, no. From him, from stories, from 20 years of watching him be the person he is. What if? I know the what ifs. I know all of them. I've run every one of them in my head since the moment you told me about that headache. She looked down at her stomach, back up at him. And I need you to fight. Everything you have, fight. He looked at her for a long time. This infuriating, extraordinary, finally broken open woman. I'll fight, he said. She nodded. One sharp nod. Good, she stood up. Then let's go tell Dr. Chen to schedule the surgery. The surgery was scheduled for a Friday. In the 7 days between the decision and the morning it came. The world shrank down to just the two of them. Victoria took no calls. Attended no meetings. Let her assistant handle everything and didn't check in once. Caleb thought this might be the most shocking development of their entire relationship. They spent the week doing nothing important. They watched old movies. The kind neither of them would have admitted to liking. They cooked badly together, Victoria being worse in the kitchen than any billionaire had a right to be. They slept late, walked slowly, talked about everything and nothing. He called Gerald one evening. Gerald, who'd become something close to family over 3 years. Take care of her, Caleb said. Whatever happens. Nothing's going to happen, Gerald said. The automatic response. Gerald's silence. Yeah, Gerald said quietly. I will. Elizabeth came over Wednesday evening. She sat at the kitchen table and talked about nothing for 2 hours and then held Caleb's face in her hands on the way out. You saved her, you know, Elizabeth said. She saved me. Both things are true. Elizabeth's eyes were wet. Both things. Thursday evening the night before, they lay in bed in the dark. The city outside. The future outside. Victoria's stomach was almost 17 weeks now. Sometimes there was movement. Small things, impossible and real. Tell me something you've never told me, she said. Something I've never told you. Anything, something small. I want to know something new. He thought about it. When I first started coming to Ashford Tower, he said slowly, there was a woman on 14, Sasha. She was. I remember Sasha, Victoria said. Careful, I know you do, but you never asked about her. Number, why not? Because whatever she was to you was before us. And it wasn't my business. She was almost something. He said, she was warm and easy, and she made me laugh, and if things had been different. Caleb, I'm not saying this to hurt you. I'm saying it because you asked for something you don't know. He paused. I chose you. That's the end of the story, but I want you to know it was a real choice. Not a default. Not because you were there. I looked at everything I could have had that was easier and lighter, and I chose the thing that was harder and truer and more real. Why? She asked. Because you see me. Completely. Even the parts I haven't shown anyone, you look at them like they're not surprising. She was quiet for a moment. I used to practice being cold, she said suddenly. What? When I was young, before I inherited everything, I practiced in the mirror. Practiced keeping my face still, keeping my voice flat, because my father read emotion as weakness. And I couldn't afford to be weak. She paused. I got so good at it I forgot I was doing it. Until a plumber told me a pipe didn't care about my conference call. He laughed softly. Small thing, she said, to crack 20 years of practice. Sometimes the small things are the right size. She put her hand on her stomach. They're going to know you, she said. I need you to believe that. Whatever happens tomorrow, they will know exactly who you were. I will spend every day of my life making sure. Victoria, I need to say it in case I don't get to say it afterward in a good way. He turned toward her, found her face in the dark. I love you, he said. I love you. Immediate, no hesitation. 3 years and it still came out like something new. Terrified? He said. Completely together, she moved closer, pressed her forehead to his. Together, she said, Friday. The morning was ordinary in the way that mornings before extraordinary things always are. Light through the windows, coffee smell from the kitchen. The city waking up outside. Victoria was up before him. He found her at the window, one hand on her stomach, watching the street below. He stood in the doorway and looked at her. This was the image he wanted. He decided that immediately. If there was only one image he got to keep, this was the one. Her at the window. Early morning light, one hand on their children, she was still becoming. You're up early, he said. Couldn't sleep the last 2 hours. Samey. He crossed to her at the window. What are you looking at? He said. Nothing specific. She leaned into him. Everything. They watched the street together. Ordinary Friday morning. People walking to work. A man walking a dog. A delivery truck. A woman buying coffee from a cart on the corner. Real life continuing. Ready, she said. No, he said. Me neither. Let's go anyway. The surgery was scheduled for 8 hours. Victoria sat in the surgical waiting room with Gerald on her left and Elizabeth on her right, and her hands folded on top of her stomach. She didn't read, didn't work, didn't perform. Elizabeth held her hand at hour 4 without asking. At hour 6, Victoria stood up and walked to the window, looked out at the hospital parking lot below. The ordinary cars, the ordinary world continuing to be ordinary. Her stomach moved, small. Certain she put her hand there. He's fighting, she told them. I know he is. At hour 7, a nurse came to the door. Victoria turned around. The nurse's face. It was Dr. Chen's face all over again, the version she knew. Victoria walked toward her. Miss Ashford, the nurse started. Tell me, Victoria said. Her voice was perfectly steady. Her voice was a wall. She was standing behind. There were complications during the surgery. The tumor was more extensive than the scan showed. We did everything. Tell me. Mr. Morrow didn't survive the surgery. I'm so sorry, he passed at 12:47. The waiting room was absolutely silent. Gerald made a sound. Soft and broken. Elizabeth covered her mouth. Victoria stood completely still. 12:47. She looked at the clock on the wall. It was 12:51. 4 minutes ago, Caleb James Morrow had been alive. And now he wasn't. She stood with that. The world tilted and righted and tilted again. And then something happened that made the nurse step forward immediately. Victoria's hand went to her stomach, and she looked down. Something she started, and then she couldn't finish the sentence because the pain arrived. The twins came into the world at 3:14 in the afternoon, on the same day their father left it. The same hospital, different floors, a few hours apart. Victoria was in labor for 2.5 hours. Elizabeth held one hand. Gerald held the other. Nobody spoke much. Words seemed wrong. The first cry, when it came, was the loudest sound in the world. Elizabeth started sobbing immediately. The second cry came 4 minutes later. 2, both healthy, both real, both here. The nurse laid them on Victoria's chest, one at each side, impossibly small. Impossibly present. Victoria looked at them. And she broke, not the way she used to break. Not the controlled, hidden who sees me breaking. The real kind. The kind that comes from the deepest part of you. She cried in a way she never had before. From somewhere ancient. From somewhere that understood both things at once. He was gone. They were here. He was gone. They were here. Both true. Both unbearable. Both somehow survivable. Gerald was crying. Elizabeth was crying. The nurses in the room were looking at each other with the expressions of people who've witnessed something too big to file away neatly. Victoria looked at her children. A girl, a boy. She'd been thinking about names for weeks, had a list, long and argued over. Caleb had favorites. She had favorites. They'd bickered about it with the comfortable energy of people who knew they had time. They hadn't had time. She looked at her son. Thomas, she said, Caleb's middle name. He'd never liked it. She was using it anyway. She looked at her daughter. Those eyes already. Something in the shape of them. Nora, she said, his mother's name. The woman he'd described once, in the early days, as the best person he ever knew. Thomas and Nora, hi, she whispered to them, voice destroyed, heart destroyed, still here, still present. Your dad was the most infuriating person I ever met, she told them. He talked to me like I was regular. Do you know how long it had been since someone talked to me like I was regular? She looked at the ceiling, at nothing. He fixed pipes, she said. That was his job. But he also fixed things you can't charge for, things I didn't know were broken. She swallowed. You would have loved him. You're going to love him, because I'm going to make sure you do. Thomas made a sound. Small, certain. She looked down at him. I know, she said. Not because it's dark, because it's real. Grief is not a clean thing. It doesn't move in stages the way the books describe. It moves in waves and silences and ambushes. It's the coffee thermos on the counter out of habit, and then they're remembering. It's reaching for a phone to tell him something, and then they're remembering. It's two babies who have his eyes and his hands and his way of looking at you like you're worth figuring out. Victoria did not fall apart. Not in the way people expected her to. She cried. Often in the shower, in the car, in the office bathroom before quarterly meetings, in the nursery after Thomas and Nora fell asleep, when the room was quiet and full and she was alone in it. But she also worked. Not to escape, to build. The foundation doubled in scope in the year after Caleb died. She funded a medical assistance program, specifically for people who couldn't afford treatment, specifically named after him. The Caleb Morrow Treatment Access Fund. Gerald ran it. He'd asked to. She'd said yes immediately. She hired Sasha. That surprised everyone, including Sasha. Victoria called her personally. Direct, no preamble. You loved him, Victoria said. Yes, Sasha said. After a pause. So did I. He was worth it. Another pause. I need a design director for the foundation's new housing projects. Gerald says you're brilliant. Caleb said you were excellent. She paused. He told me about you. Near the end. He said you deserved to be somewhere your work meant something. Long silence on Sasha's end. Miss Ashford, Victoria, please. Victoria, why are you doing this? Because he would have wanted me to, and because I spent too many years being someone who didn't make things right when I had the chance. She paused, And because you're excellent. And I need excellent people around me. Sasha took the job. They were not friends immediately, but they became something over years, over the work they shared. Something that would have made Caleb smile. Thomas is 4 years old now. He talks constantly, asks questions about everything, follows Elizabeth around the kitchen wanting to help, getting underfoot, entirely unaware that this is inconvenient. Elizabeth lets him help anyway. Nora is quieter, watches everything, has her father's way of looking at a room like she's reading it, like it's interesting, like people are worth figuring out. She has her mother's eyes, but she uses them the way Caleb did. Victoria takes them to the foundation building every Thursday. There is a photograph in the lobby. Not a corporate portrait. A real one. Gerald took it on the day of the first ribbon cutting, when Caleb was standing in the back of the crowd watching Victoria speak. He's laughing at something. Head tilted back slightly, completely unself-conscious, completely present. Thomas points to it every week. Daddy, he says, matter of fact. That's right, Victoria says. Every time Nora stands in front of it longer, quietly. One Thursday, Nora took Victoria's hand while they were standing in front of the photograph. Mama, she said. Words were still new things to her. Yes, baby. Did Daddy fix things? Victoria looked at the photograph, at the man laughing in the back of the crowd. Yes, she said. He fixed things? What things? She thought about it seriously. Pipes, she said. And me. Nora seemed to consider this. Can I fix things too? She asked. Victoria looked down at her daughter, her serious, watchful, extraordinary daughter with her father's eyes. You already do, she said. They stood together in the lobby of the building he'd helped her become worthy of building. Outside, the city moved. Inside, everything was still. And in the stillness, something that doesn't have a clean name. Not happiness, exactly. Not grief, exactly. Something that holds both of those things at the same time. The way a person can be gone and still be everywhere. The way love doesn't end. It just changes shape. His name was Caleb James Morrow. He was a plumber from the south side of Chicago. He had rough hands and a bad habit of saying exactly what he thought. He fixed a water main pressure issue on a Tuesday in November and changed the direction of a woman who had everything and was missing all of it. He loved someone he shouldn't have been able to love, who was too proud and too cold and too defended and too difficult. He loved her anyway. He gave her 2 children in 3 years, and a way of seeing herself that she didn't have before him. And then he left, not because he wanted to, not because love wasn't enough, but because some things are not negotiable. Not even for love. The tumor didn't care about their story. Didn't care how far they'd come, how much they'd built, how much was still left to do. It just came back and he fought, and the fight wasn't enough. And that is the truth. And the truth is unbearable. And the truth is survivable. And the truth is that Victoria Ashford, who once practiced coldness in a mirror, who once walked past people like they were furniture, who once built an empire on the backs of people she never looked at, became someone worth being, not because of money, not because of success, because a man sat across from her and talked to her like she was regular, and she was never the same. That's all love is. Really, someone is seeing you clearly and choosing you anyway, and changing you quietly, permanently, even after they're gone, especially after they're gone. This is a story, life story. I cried so much writing it. I'm dedicating it to everyone who has lost a loved one, who found love but it left too soon. Personally, I think the hurt from losing a loved one never truly heals, never goes away. People might not talk about it much, but somehow, it's still somewhere in their heart. I hope you keep living, keep surviving that pain and hurt, knowing that one thing that person never wanted is to leave or hurt you. I guess life happens, and most times, unexpectedly, the end.